The GameCube is a console that may not have had the most extensive library compared to the PlayStation 2 or even the Xbox, but still had a healthy library without question. Throughout that library, though, it's fascinating to check out games that feel much lesser known than the more common titles out there. Last year, myself as well as RetroWolf88 collaborated to bring you viewers 5 games each that we felt were games that we never heard anyone talk about, and even games that we ourselves never played. In today's episode, we revisit this topic, covering 10 more games total that continue to fit this category. So, sit back, relax, and let's check out some more games that no one talks about, for better or worse. Alright, I'm gonna let RetroWolf start off, so Matt, take it away.
My first game is going to be Carmen Sandiego, The Secret of the Stolen Drums. Carmen Sandiego, The Secret of the Stolen Drums released on the GameCube as well as the PS2 and Xbox back in 2004, and Carmen Sandiego as a series is already one nobody ever talks about, so I can guarantee you most people do not even know this game exists, and those people are lucky. It is an action-adventure platformer where you play as Acme agent Cole Gannon, no, not that Gannon, as you make your way through many locations such as New York City, New Zealand, Bangkok, and more in an effort to find Carmen Sandiego and prevent her from stealing some diamond that contains all knowledge or something. I say action-adventure platformer, but guess what? It does none of those things well. The controls are slow and clunky, the stealth mechanic to take down robots is boring and tedious, and the gameplay mechanics are very basic and limited. The platforming itself is incredibly unresponsive and frustrating to the point where there were a few moments I was using some colorful language out loud. For some games, it is probably best that nobody ever talks about them and they sink into the sands of obscurity forever. So I apologize for bringing this game to your attention. Blame Marcello. Alright Marcello, we're not off to a good start so far, so I'm going to turn it over to you now to see what you have.
So, Carmen Sandiego doesn't quite sound like something I want to find and add to my collection, so, yeah, moving along. Alright, so first up for me is Mystic Heroes, published and developed by Koei. Here is a game that resembles the Dynasty Warriors series, bringing that Musou gameplay to the GameCube for the first time, but is a unique take on the formula. An evil emperor called Kang, his wife Sheva, and generals Griffin and Kai escape their sealed imprisonment using something called the Dragon Star, and it is up to our heroes, or Mystic Heroes rather, to prevent them from conquering the world. Choosing one of 4 heroes, each have specific attributes pertaining to their power, speed, and magic. Once you select the hero, you will have to go through the campaign with that selected character. Stages are broken up into roughly 3 sections, with a boss awaiting in the final section. Each level has a certain clear requirement, but is more direct than the Dynasty Warriors series that had stipulations with many missions. Combat is relegated to mostly mashing the A button, but you can mix in magic abilities both on the ground and aerial. Additionally, you will obtain runes, which can be selected and or combined to enhance magical abilities. The game's art direction is also very welcome and gives the game its own unique appearance with colorful character models, and the game does run at a smooth 60 frames a second. I will say, while the gameplay gets repetitive, which is par for the course with Musou games, it's a fun, mindless time to be had. And one more aspect to note is that the game is fully playable from start to finish in 4-player split-screen co-op, which always makes for great local multiplayer fun. Additionally, there's a variety of other modes here, so the package overall is quite robust. It's a shame that the series never expanded with sequels, but rather just flew under the radar while Koei's Dynasty Warriors series continued to receive countless other installments throughout the years.
Next up on my list, is this one gonna be good? Well, let's talk about it. Yu-Gi-Oh! The False-Bound Kingdom. Yu-Gi-Oh! The False-Bound Kingdom was released only on the GameCube back in 2003 and was published and developed by Konami. Now I realize that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a very well-known property, however this game is not, as I can't recall hearing a single person talk about this obscure letdown of a game. Oh, I'm sorry, did I say letdown? Let me explain why. Back in the day, when I was a wee lad, I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh! The card game, and I rather enjoyed it, and I collected some Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards as well. I had never played False-Bound Kingdom, so I was very excited at the prospect of playing a digital version of the card game on the GameCube. Well, guess what? It's not a freaking card game. Yu-Gi-Oh! The False-Bound Kingdom is some sort of boring, slow, tedious, army commanding, turn-based RPG, and that was not what I was expecting. The gameplay here was so insanely exhausting and uninteresting that I considered selling my entire GameCube collection to Retro Rick again just to get away from this monstrous disappointment of a game. Do yourself a favor, folks, and pretend you do not know this game exists so it can continue to not be talked about and stay in the dustbins of obscurity. Marcello, that's 2 for 2 that are not good games. Hopefully you have a good one. Back to you.
Next game. So next up for my list is Groove Rider Slot Car Thunder, published by Encore and developed by King of the Jungle. Now, I grew up playing with slot cars as a kid. I had my own slot car set at home and even had a birthday party when I was 6 years old at a slot car racing place. Anyway, Groove Rider has you tackling championships based on the speed, class, and difficulty, and has you racing along tracks created within a living room, kitchen, or rooftop garden, as well as other locations. Controls are actually very simple to grasp, with the analog stick being your throttle and the L and R triggers letting you switch lanes on the track. The analog stick provides a natural feel of allowing you to gradually speed up or slow down the slot car, and it makes sense for the controls to go this route. Additionally, there are weapons and power-ups you can acquire on the tracks to utilize against your opponents. However, this game is far from a walk in the park. The AI here is quite challenging, and perfecting tracks is a must to succeed. Tracks also throw obstacles your way, like gates that can be initiated or deactivated along the lanes, or environmental hazards like this toast here landing on the track. Visually, the game doesn't look half bad, and it does run at a smooth frame rate, especially for a budget release. However, this used to be a budget title, which released at $19.99 back in the day, but has now gone up drastically in price for the GameCube, well upwards of almost $100. I will say, the time I put into this game so far was much better than I expected. Sure, it's not a great game, but it's certainly a fun one that doesn't seem to be known about by many for this generation. Now, I did say that you're going to have to kind of pay up if you want to get this one in your collection, but can't pay up unless you've got your handy dandy wallet with you. So, let's talk about today's sponsor. So, Exter has been a company that's been around for several years now, creating really nice smart wallets. Whether they're wallets that are just slim form factor and have a nice strap around there that actually holds cash as well as cards, to more intriguing ones that have a leather bounding around them that actually hides your cash and also gives you room to add more cards. Additionally, they create their own proprietary tracker cards that you can easily fit in any card slot of the wallet, and at least this way, if you feel like you've misplaced your wallet, you can actually track it down using the Chipolo app that they tell you about right in the packaging. Now, I've been using this wallet for a few weeks now, and every time I showcase it in public and push the button that ejects my cards, everybody seems to be really drawn to that aspect. So, if you're interested in picking up an Exter wallet, I actually have a special discount code where if you go on their website and type in GCG as the promo code, you will get a percentage off on these wallets. If you're interested, I will leave a link in the description down below. So thank you again, Extra, for sponsoring today's episode. Now, back to the video.
Okay, game number 3 for me. Is this one going to be good? Let's talk about Shamu's Deep Sea Adventures. Shamu's Deep Sea Adventures is an action game based on SeaWorld's famous killer whale Shamu, and was released on the GameCube as well as the PS2 and Xbox back in 2005, and it also got a Game Boy Advance port. I just can't win. This is the 3rd game on my list that has been so bad it makes me want to smash my GameCube with a sledgehammer. In Shamu's Deep Sea Adventure, you play as Shamu as you try to stop the Greek god of the sea, Poseidon, because he wants to destroy SeaWorld and put Atlantis in its place. Yup, you heard that right. You can't make this stuff up. There are over 20 levels as you swim around, smack things with your tail, make whale noises, collect crystals, and get some power-ups. After the excruciating 8-minute long tutorial that was mostly bad voice acting telling me every detail of the game, I finally got into the first real level, which was simply Shamu auto-swimming towards the camera while being chased by a kraken. Then the game literally shows arrows telling you where to move to avoid getting hit. Then on the second level, you swim around a boring environment from a 2D perspective and solve these stupid door puzzles while avoiding or fighting hard to see enemies with the ugly visual soup that is the graphics. Then you headbutt a crab. You know what needs to be done with every copy of this game? Someone should round up all the copies, dump it in that giant trash island in the middle of the ocean so all the whales can be happy that this travesty of a game can no longer be played. Yet another game that nobody talks about, and it should have stayed that way. But here we are. Okay, Marcello. I'm getting frustrated. But it's not your fault because I picked these games. I have 2 more left. Maybe they'll be good, but for now, back to you.
I mean, I have it in my collection, and I just got it for my daughter on her DS, but she doesn't play it. Maybe that's everything I need to know. Alright, so next up for me is Rally Championship, published by Encore and developed by Warthog. Racing games are a dime a dozen, and I've always been a fan of the genre. Rally Championship looks to bring an authentic rally experience to the GameCube with realistic car physics based on the roadways and damage modeling. This is one I rarely came across in stores back in the day, and having acquired it a bit more recently, I knew this was one I wanted to delve into for this episode. Rally Championship has you tackling either the arcade mode or the more intricate career mode. Arcade mode is your simple stage-to-stage gameplay with a time limit between checkpoints. Meanwhile, career mode has you using funds to buy vehicles and slowly progress through the game's vehicle classes and modes. However, that's about where the differences end between the 2 modes. Rally Championship has you racing against opponents' times in both modes, and each checkpoint will show where you currently reside within the standings and how far off you are time-wise from your opponent's timestamps. There are no other vehicles riding on the track alongside you, as this focuses on the time, speed, distance style of the sport. That being said, from what I played of Rally Championship, I wasn't quite feeling this one. The handling and gameplay are just okay, but the tracks felt way too long and honestly just boring to race on. I did like the damage modeling showcased visually, and crashes do affect the vehicle mechanically in-game. So for example, driving at night and breaking your headlights will result in having to finish the race driving pretty much blindly. The visuals are a mixed bag as well, with environments being pretty average looking and the driver character models looking pretty laughably bad. I mean, look at the co-driver here who looks like he's either asleep or flat out dead. On second thought, that was almost me playing this game. The game does run at a smooth 60 frames a second though, so that's a trade-off I suppose. Ultimately, yeah, this was just kind of very run-of-the-mill, and I'd recommend trying Pro Rally on the GameCube instead of this, as it's also a significantly cheaper alternative that I covered in a previous GameCube exclusives episode, which I will leave a link for in the description down below if interested.
Left 2, caution, bank, right 3, into long hairpin left.
My fourth game. Is this going to be a redemption? Well, let's find out, and the game is Nickelodeon's Rocket Power Beach Bandits. Rocket Power Beach Bandits released on the GameCube as well as the PS2 back in 2002, and it also had a Game Boy Advance port. It's based on the Rocket Power Nickelodeon television series, which I watched back in the day and I had fond memories of. It is an adventure game with some skating elements where the crew is trying to figure out who stole all the beach sand and get it back before it's too late. You will roam all around ocean shores. Say ocean shores 10 times fast. Ocean shores, 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 ocean shores. I don't know if that was 10 times, but I actually did it. Let's see if you can do it. Oh, sorry for that interruption. Let me start that over. You roam all around ocean shores, and you can switch between all 4 main characters, as well as switch from walking to skateboarding to rollerblading. You follow your compass from objective to objective as you complete challenges in relation to the story, and many of these challenges are centered around skating. Now, at first, I didn't know how I felt about this game, as I quickly noticed a few things that I didn't like. For example, there's no sound design during cutscenes, which is odd. The environment you explore feels boring and empty, and you have to pause the game to swap between characters and vehicles. But I have to admit, the more I played, the more I started to get into it. Rocket Power Beach Bandits actually started to grow on me, and I could see this as a game that I would actually sit down and take the time to play through. So finally, I have a game nobody talks about that actually might be worth playing. So check out Rocket Power Beach Bandits. Alright Marcello, we're looking a little better, buddy. But I want to see what you have next, so back to you.
Now, I'm really glad that Matt picked Rocket Power because I always found it to be somewhat of a hidden gem, so I'm glad to see that he also enjoyed it. Finally, you had something decent to play out of your picks so far. Now, let's see what's next. Alright, next up for me is Worms 3D, published by Acclaim and developed by Team 17. Now, the Worms franchise has been around for quite some time, starting off on the PC and moving their way to consoles of all kinds, and still receiving new installments to this day. However, Worms 3D was a one-of-a-kind game, as it was the first and only time the series went full 3D. Gone were the 2D planes, and now all combat was handled within 3D environments. Controlling the worms are exactly as you'd expect in this 3D space, as the physics feel very identical to its 2D iterations, and the controls are honestly quite easy to grasp. If you never played a Worms game before, basically you have a team of worms that must defeat the other team of worms. What makes the team aspect really engaging though is the amount of customization the series is known for. Here you can name every worm on a team, change the team name, change the nationality, the special weapon, and the gravestone for when they lose their life. But the most hilarious are the voice options. You can choose from a variety of other languages as well as different accents. The campaign also provides some nice variety from the standard taking out the other team to actually acquiring certain items within the battlefield. The weapons in these games are hilarious as well, and the amount of character this game has is simply hilarious. I never hear anyone ever mention this particular installment, and it's a shame because the 3D style carries over really well over here.
Do not expect any mercy from me.
The final game on my list, I am happy to say, is a banger, and that game is Black and Bruised. Black and Bruised is a cel-shaded, over-the-top, and hilarious arcade boxing game that was released on the GameCube as well as the PS2 back in 2003. I have no freaking idea why nobody talks about Black and Bruised because this game is awesome and a blast to play. There are 19 different boxers to choose from, each with their own stats, unique personalities, and story you can play through in Boxer's Life mode. The controls and gameplay is easy to learn but difficult to master, and there are a ton of power-ups to use use and how you build up the power-ups is very unique. My favorite thing about Black and Bruised outside of the gameplay is just the overall polish and presentation with fantastic voice acting, music, cutscenes, and the game is hilarious, and it is kind of offensive comedy, which I really like. There are not many boxing games at all on the GameCube, and in my opinion, this is a must-own even if you aren't a boxing fan. Black and Bruised is easily the best game on my list for this video, and this is one where it actually is a shame that nobody talks about it, so do yourself a favor and check out Black and Bruised. Whew. After that list, I am so happy to have one that is actually a really good game that I can recommend to people. Now, Marcello, before I close out, I want to say thank you to you for letting me be in this video. Really means a lot. You have the best GameCube channel on YouTube, and I'm excited to see what your final game is. So, I'm going to turn it over back to you. Thank you, everybody.
Matt, Black and Bruised looks like a blast. That's another one in my collection I still need to play. So dude, thank you for joining in on this and taking part and showing games that you wanted to showcase that you felt no one talks about. And I agree with all your picks that they're games that no one really talks about. So thanks for joining in. Now, let's continue that whole aspect of games with offensive humor that probably wouldn't be made today. Let's go. All right, last up for me is Outlaw Golf, published by Simon & Schuster Interactive and developed by Hypnotics. All right, now this is a game I've wanted to play for some time and just recently acquired at Southeast Game Exchange finally this year. Outlaw Golf is all about encapsulating these bizarre characters in a world of golf. It's almost like the developers looked at Billy Madison and said, hold our beer, we're gonna make this an even crazier form of golf entertainment. And oh boy, did they ever. First off, golf as a sport never excited me much to watch. I loved games like Mario Golf and Hot Shots Golf, but watching golf as a sport? Yeah, not for me. That being said, if this was how golf was in real life, I'd be glued watching this on TV. The cast of characters here are, well, a cast of characters, alright. You'll pick your golfer and specified caddy and tackle championships across various fictional golf courses. Controls are a bit different than your average arcade-style golf game, as you'll use the C-stick to pull back your swing and then flick the C-stick up to swing at the ball at the right time. Keeping your flick stick action steady will determine if there's a bit of curve to your shot or if it's dead on straight. What's interesting is depending on how you're playing will affect your character's composure levels. Keep getting great shots and the meter increases, letting you hit the ball a little bit farther than normal. Keep messing up though, and that meter decreases, meaning your shots won't go as far. But if you're feeling demoralized, why not beat the crap out of your caddy in front of everybody? Seriously, look at this.
Am I sensing a little?
Get over here. Come on, you know you like this. You want more? You want that? Slut, stank, bitch. Slut, bitch, stank, slut, grease me down.
And I thought hockey was violent.
Now this is hilarious to me and easily what makes this game stand out. Additionally, Steve Carell actually provides the commentary in this game, which is a really awesome aspect. The one thing that stood out like a sore thumb though were the hideous water textures. But otherwise, dang, this is a fun one. While it's a game of its time, that makes it all the better as it brings you back to when you can actually have humor like this in a game. Remember those days? Anyway, I feel like this one flew under the radar, and the series had other installments, but it was only on the PS2 and the original Xbox.
Yes, sir, Bob. This golf is heading in the right direction.
Ride me, baby.
There are still so many other games out of the GameCube's library that never quite get spoken of, and it's always fascinating checking these games out to see if they're potentially hidden gems or if there's a legitimate reason as to why they're never spoken of. I want to quickly thank Matt, aka RetroWolf88, again for joining in on this follow-up collab episode. If you guys haven't seen the first episode, I will leave a link for that in the description down below as well, so be sure to check that one out if you haven't seen that. So, have you guys played any of these games? Any that caught your interest? Sound off in the comments below, as I'd love to hear your thoughts. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll catch you all in the next episode.
You